Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with podcaster, comedian, and former political candidate Anthony Rogers. He is an actor in Rampage, President Down on Netflix, Psycho 8 on Amazon Prime, podcast host of The Anthony Rogers Show, CEO of Anthony Rogers TV on Roku and Fire TV, and these days he lives in a remodeled school bus. We get into this COVID life, politics, modern living, and so much more about this world that we are all navigating. Enjoy this interview.
My son is in Special Olympics, and we were out there in March for, we were in St. Charles for a basketball tournament, and I got to tell you, the one thing that drives me absolutely crazy, and I don't eat them all the time because it would kill me, is I love White Castle, and Kansas City doesn't have it. So when I get to St. Louis, I am in White Castle heaven.
My aunt's like that. My aunt's from Tulsa, and she just gets crave cases to bring back with her, man. No, it's good, man. You guys don't even have a crystals or anything, right?
No, we don't have anything that's like that. I mean, yeah, really, at the end of the day, that's the only unique thing. I tell you what, one time I did get a suitcase years ago, and I came back and I ate so many, I literally felt poisoned.
You will. Oh, you will. Yeah.
Oh my God! It was the weirdest feeling. I was like, I did too much, and I just I waited it out, and it was okay. But sometimes you can go overboard. But yeah, we have nothing like that here. I mean, there might be some specialty places that throw a bed of onions down, but as far as that thing, we have to go to the frozen case at the grocery store to do it.
That's awesome. My buddy tells me your barbecue's on point though. I haven't had any, but he's like a musician, and every time he plays Kansas City, he just like sends me pictures of barbecue and like tells me I'm missing out.
Oh, dude, yeah, man. When you get up here, absolutely. If you ever do head up this way, I will point you in the right direction. But yeah, people internationally, because I interview jazz musicians all the time, they always say the same thing. They're like, "What's the barbecue like?" It's like you got to get it before you leave, and yeah, it's good stuff up here.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get a comedy show going up there because it's a cheap Amtrak tickets. So I can just do that. Sorry about my pronunciation. So.
Oh yeah, no, it is, and I've taken the same Amtrak, and it's fun. It has a romance to be on the train to go back and forth for sure.
It really is. When you go to Chicago, it's weird seeing it busy. You feel like you went through a time machine. It's like that's actually what I did when I was single. Like back in the heyday, in my late 20s, I went to Wrigley on an Amtrak, and it was wondrous. It was the coolest thing. It's so cool. Yeah, no, and I've only been to Kansas City like once or twice. Like my buddy was like in a smaller band, like back in the day. Like a reggae band or something. I forgot the place, but I've only been there once, and it reminds me of St. Louis. It's just like a different kind of vibe. The people are a different kind of vibe, but it's like the same layout,
Yeah, it absolutely is. And the one thing about Kansas City, especially for people that come from big cities, is it's kind of surprising when you get here because there's a lot of culture, there's a lot of arts. Like for jazz, for instance, I know we're a cradle, but jazz struggles all over the place if you're not in New York and other big meccas. But Kansas City has a very strong scene. There's a lot going on. It's just surprising, I think, when people come here and figure out what's going on.
I love old jazz, too. That's kind of cool. I'll have to check that out at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I will tell you one thing on the St. Louis front that always pisses me off, and we beat the Rams yesterday, is I can't believe they sold that team for you guys.
Oh, I know, bro. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan now. I watched that game yesterday smiling the whole time.
And it's just like, I don't understand. Like, LA has these two teams. They're both transplants. San Diego lost their team. The Rams, St. Louis lost their team. It's like, what a no man's land area of sport for football there. Like, how can those people in LA have any bond? Like, I get the Lakers, I get the Dodgers, but for football, it's like, why? Who cares?
It used to be their team back in the day, I think, is the connection. So a lot of older guys, like a lot of my buddies, they're like my age, like late 30s, 40s, like that. They remember the Rams as like a kid. And that's the connection. That's the connection they have. But I agree. As a St. Louis guy, I agree. It was a money move, and same thing as Pujols going to like the Angels. Like, he's a hero here. He goes there. He's just another guy. And same thing with the Rams. Like, they're like heroes here, and then they go somewhere else. They're just like another option between the 14 sports teams they have.
Yeah, I did watch that Kurt Warner story. I took a flight from San Diego to Seattle, and that was such a good story, man.
Oh, fucking magic, man. That year was 1999. That was a magic year for the Rams, man. People never forget that. No, it's true, man.
And that was a comeback year. I mean, it wasn't a foregone thing. You guys had to scratch and claw to get to a point where you even got to the playoffs.
True. We won. I mean, no, we won every game except for the Titans, I believe, and then we faced them in the Super Bowl. I want to say we went undefeated that year, though. But we came from nothing. We came from nothing, and Warner was literally a grocery clerk at the time.
Yeah, he was in the Hy-Vee.
Yeah.
Have you seen the film?
I have not. I just know the story. Wow. He's like that was a magic time as me as a kid. Just as a kid, I was like 8th grade or a freshman or something. That was just a magic time, and I have it imprinted in my brain.
It may bring you back to a land of nostalgia that would be wondrous, because they do show the scene where he's working with the guy at Hy-Vee, and then of course he goes to the NFL, and the guy in the Hy-Vee, when they go to the Super Bowl, picks up an issue of Sports Illustrated, and he's just like, wow, because he just worked there like a year before. So that's
magic, man. That's what America's about, man. Be anywhere, go anywhere, and who knows how long you're going there, but you can go there.
Yeah, you certainly can. You certainly can. Well, speaking of going there and magic, thank you for thank you for taking a minute out today to talk about your life as a comedian, former political candidate, podcaster. I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, no, likewise, man. I love doing this stuff, man. I love seeing other people. I do podcasts too. I have a podcast too. I love just sitting back seeing what other people do, and it's just cool, man.
Well, the one thing that's beautiful about podcasting, I think, in this modern world of us being so divided is that it's kind of a therapeutic way of meeting and finding out who we are and having some level of empathy that I think is very, very relevant in this post-COVID world.
Oh yeah. It's like the new radio.
Yeah, it certainly is. So, speaking of COVID, we had quite a 2-year period, and especially as a comedian, and you seem like the kind of person that gets out there. How did you survive that 2-year period, and how has it changed the way that you live your life now?
You may not like this answer, but I just didn't even take it seriously at all. I just read a lot of history books and stuff, and it just seemed like Nazi Germany again to me. And I thought I got paranoid and thought they're just gonna round us up. It just seemed fake, man. They're like, businesses banned, all this stuff. I'm like, I don't believe this, and I don't believe it's the real threat. I was more worried about how it was handled. I think how it was handled hurt way more people. You know what I mean? I think it just robbed independent businesses and gave all the money to Amazon, and then you just started look at me, I'm driving a space shuttle to wherever with your town's money, And then it was just disgusting how everything was handled. To be honest, man, I just thought it was. I think if we did nothing, we would have been better off.
Yeah, it's weird, and I kept thinking that in the beginning. The whole time period was split up into chunks. And I was talking to people when this all began. It's something isn't adding up here. I understand that people are for instance, I cut my thumb really bad on March 31st of 2020 and had to go to the ER. And I remember getting in there, and there was this hardcore dude that was getting ready to climb a mountain in Machu Picchu or something like that. And I just looked at him and I said, dude, give me the skinny on this. What's up? And he was like, the real people in this society that we have to worry about with COVID are those that are really in bad shape and the elderly, period. That's who it's going to attack the most. And those kinds of things, flus and other things attack those people too. And I'm not downgrading the COVID thing, but there was a level of this, now everybody's back out. We're getting sick. We're getting all these things that we avoided for 2 years. And it's I don't know that we needed to all go out and run around and mingle, but there would have been ways for us to get the information and to coordinate this in some logical manner. Like you're saying, it was coordinated so horribly.
Oh yeah, no, that was the real pandemic, man. In my opinion, because I think it was just a rebranded flu, and it was it was this weird power move, man. Because if you remember right, not to go too tin foil, but if you remember right before that, Epstein got caught that huge bust of sex trafficking, and you found out Hollywood and the Catholic Church and the royals were all involved in this, and then the next day, the next week or so, we were locked down. I'm suspicious, I was very suspicious, and then all that vaccine push, untested, all that stuff. All my friends, dude, so many 30-year-olds are dying. People my age are just dying, left and right of blood clots and heart attacks. And I'm like, are they trying to depopulate the earth? Like that's what it seemed like to me. But I'm also like, I mean, I'm not like going to die on that hill, but like I just like I'm very suspicious of the whole thing. And it just didn't seem. I mean, we're like, okay, let's get a bunch of guys that are $20 trillion in debt with their deficit to handle a pandemic. You know, it's like just like, oh my god, like what? It's just like the politicians are the least responsible people on earth. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, amen. Totally.
And then, and nothing was different with the flu. I mean, like you saw the same thing, like when you said the elderly and all that. Like it was just the flu. It was literally them like trying to scare us with the flu into like submission with like MK Ultra tactics. Is when you traumatize the population, they're more susceptible to all these crazy rules and laws. Like if you just said, "Oh, you can't have independent business. You have to go home at 10," no one would fall for that. And unless you're like, "Oh yeah, there's a really deadly disease," and everybody's like, "Well, I love my family. I love my friends. I'm scared to die," you know. And you played on a real fear in America and on humans, really.
The whole thing was strange, man. I mean, and the way it undulated back, it was really, really bizarre. And, you know, America was already kind of the car teetering on the edge. So you throw George Floyd in there and all these other things that have been unresolved culturally and socially for us. And then you got gasoline on it.
Oh, yeah, they played on racial tension and turned us all against each other. No matter what your opinion was, somebody was mad. And it's just like, I mean, they try to push us into a civil war, I think, honestly, man. I think they're just like, and then America's just too smart for that, like, thank God, you know?
Yeah, I think we've evolved beyond, those kinds of things. Well, you know, let me get to exactly who you are and the crux of what you do. And I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. And one of them looks up at you and says, they say, "What do you do for a living and how are you qualified to do it?" How would you answer them?
If I was being honest, I'd be like, I don't do anything, but don't tell anyone. That's kind of the secret of like an artist, I think. I think we're just like kind of self-absorbed. I mean, for the lack of a better terminology, I think we're self-absorbed assholes, really, that got good at marketing ourselves, you know. And I don't think our job really needs to exist, to be honest. I think I should have like cured cancer with my time or like did something more valuable to the human race. But yeah, no, I just kind of talking to a microphone for 30 minutes after driving for 8 hours over and over again.
So what's the drive? What's the 8-hour drive?
I mean, it depends on where I'm going. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I mean, it depends. I mean, I just jam out listening to music or podcasts, or I have a school bus as a tour bus, or I mean, if it's far enough and it's like summer and stuff, or I enjoy traveling and I enjoy like finding a good group of buddies and just being like, hey, you want to do some shows? And like, I enjoy the camaraderie that comes with that, you know, and like
that's
just
glorified.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like it took forever to be able to even be a low-level comedian that works, that has work, you know. I'm like in the middle. I'm like, I pass like the open micers, but I'm not Dave Chappelle. I'm like, I feel like I'm like that middle tier of like I'm still like young, trying to get for comedy. I'm still young, trying to get like bigger while I'm like traveling a bunch, you know.
Who's your comedian now? Who do you look up to and admire, especially with everything we've lived through? Who is it that does it for you?
Current day, no one. But I think like I like Bill Hicks and George Carlin a lot, and I like Mitch Hedberg and stuff. I like a lot of like guys like that. But I mean, today it's just like I feel like everybody's too just like if you're any kind of controversial, they try to like ban you, and then they just reward these guys that are just mundane and just like we're kind of like hero-less really right now.
Yeah, it's weird. What do you think about Bill Burr? How do you think about his direction, where he's gone?
I think anybody could be angry, you know.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I respect his work ethic and where he got, and he's still in arenas, and he's rich, and he's living his American dream and stuff, and probably doesn't care about my opinion. But I think that just like anybody can just be angry and yell at stuff. I think, like, I mean, it's not art really to me.
Yeah. Well, but I think that's interesting with Carlin. I think we need more of that, of like wake up calls to this fictional silliness that we all have to live through. I wish there was somebody that would come out and do that. I guess Chappelle in his own way is trying to do it, but where do you think Chappelle's at now? I mean, it almost seems like he puts his foot in his mouth more than he gets us thinking about things in a rational or in a way that would change us.
I think he's as close to a philosopher as they'll allow us to have. I think he's very controlled like everybody else in the media. And when when you say something they don't like, they just delete you. I mean, you saw that publicly with Kanye West, right? But they do it to small guys all the time. Like you build a fan base, get 100. I mean, I had like a million people on Facebook, they delete it. I had to verify Twitter, they delete it. I mean, it takes you like 10 years to get to that point to where you're doing this like digital marketing thing, and then they just delete it and take it from you. I mean, so I don't think anyone is in the game that's not allowed to be in the game. So and I wouldn't push that to Chappelle. I think Chappelle's glory years were behind him. I think his show was amazing, and I think now it's like Grandpa Chappelle like smoking cigarettes, being like, I used to be funny, guys, you know.
Yeah, I think we're in a different era too. No, go ahead.
No, I think you're dead on. What are you saying? I want to hear that.
Well, I was thinking, I remember when I was in my 20s, my friends and I were running around. We loved comedy. We could say almost anything and get into it, and people wouldn't get offended. People had thicker skin. It was like we had this slow descent. After 9/11, there was this level of like this seriousness. There was this spotlight on comedy. Like, who's going to come out and try to be funny in this serious time? And it's like, even now with COVID, it's like we've gone through so many shock values that comedians are getting attacked on stage. Like, how insane is that?
No, it is insane, and I think you hit on. How old are you?
I'm 50. I just turned 50.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm 36, so we're in a similar generation. I think that I think that 9/11 was at the beginning of our generation's kind of like MK Ultra trauma like situation where like we're supposed to be scared all the time, and they just like told us what to do all the time. And you're right, it's gotten really bad since then. And you're right, yeah. I mean, they don't want. I mean, comedy is like the sprinkles on free speech. You know what I mean? It's like it's not supposed to be the first wave of free speech like it is right now, in my opinion. But I think like it was supposed to be like the sprinkles on free speech. Like we're allowed to make fun of each other. We're allowed to say things. When it becomes violent and ridiculous and that's when it's a crime. You know, it's like we can make fun of people all day. In my opinion, I still do, and like I think that's what we have to fight for every couple generations is like Lenny Bruce and George Carlin did. You know, I think a lot of those guys Carlin for words you can't say on radio or whatever, TV or whatever. And I think you have to push the limits all the time. And like I think there's about to be a renaissance. I think you're about to see a lot of art that came out of this time, and we're gonna have like a really beautiful renaissance. You know.
I agree. I think that's the thing about all of this. Like, if you were an artist during this time and you couldn't get motivated and couldn't get things going, or you had a mental block, you didn't grab the Bob Dylan moment. This is the time to shine. And I think there's going to be a lot that's going to come out of this. I remember I had an interview with the author of Bird Box, Josh Mallerman, and he said something during that interview that just roiled around my head since I think it was in March or April I talked to him. And he said, this generation, and I have two teenagers now. I have a 16 and 17-year-old. They're going to be the most woke generation going. They're the most like whether it's trans or bi or all of these different groups, there's going to be a level of consciousness that's going to open up, that's going to allow people to breathe in a different way. And hopefully art reflects that, and we stop getting so offended at everything. But I think that's the thing that we have to get over. Like Don Rickles, for instance, he could get up in front of a room and completely split everybody's side open and take pot shots at everybody. I mean, he would even have Sinatra, who had mob ties, up there crying and nailing him to a cross of possibly being connected with them. But for some reason, that was an era and day where you could completely get away with it.
Yeah, and I think we're coming back to that. And I think you hit on a lot of points too, talking about I think people are more comfortable being themselves. Like there's two sides to this huge thing. Like you saying, like bi and trans people are more comfortable in that, and I like that. I do like that part of it, but I worry about the subdivide of the human race. Everybody's labeling themselves like I am a man. I am 36 years old. And this, you know, it's like we're all human. And I think that's important. While we focus on the differences that make us unique, also. And I think we're making like strides in the uniqueness part, but we need to be like, okay, we're also all the human race, and we all need to work together, and we all need to get along on this thing, no matter how we subdivide our name or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that bothers me with the Black Lives Matter. I think that should go without saying. I think it's all. I mean, you know, I mean, like, are you kidding me? And, you know, I've even heard from younger generations, and this is alarming, dude, and this is kind of goes with what you're saying. I heard people say that their teenagers now are feeling weird by being straight, and they're around people that are trans and gay and bi and all of that, and they feel pressured to do something that maybe they don't feel. And I think if that tide gets too strong, there's people that are going to feel like they have to be ways that they don't feel, because the whole idea, I would think, of the gay and lesbian community is that they could come out and be who they want to be, because we got over that 50s puritanical notion. But if we go so strong against that and make kids that don't feel that way feel like they have to be that way to fit in, that to me seems just as dangerous.
I agree, and I think you nailed it, man. I like what you said. We're not just like, I feel like it was unsafe. Like we're just reading history books and stuff. I didn't live through this period or anything, but I feel like just it was unsafe to tell people you're homosexual at one point, and they would just beat your ass or kill you or whatever. You know, it's just insane. Like, just insane stuff. And I think we've come a long way since then. And then you nailed the kind of line that like conservatives are kind of saying. It's like we don't want to sexualize children. We don't even want to talk about this really with children, but we do want to make it okay. And we got to find the line. You got to be like, yeah, it's okay to do this if that's your choice. And blah. I mean, everything's a choice. Like it's like judging somebody off what they eat or something. It's just boring, really. You know, to me. But I mean, I think we have come a long way. But I think we need to figure out a way to just like, I don't know, like you're right. I think it's depopulation, to be honest. I think they push that so that no one has kids, basically. And I think that's what the marketing push is from like the five guys that think they run the world and they run the media, at least.
Well, and I guess that's the thing. You know, there's always these secret cauldrons of people that, you know, like we know most of the wealth is amassed by like the top 2 or 3%. So if we could just be a fly on the wall in these rooms of these people that are doing these think tanks that are pulling the strings, I think we would all be absolutely shocked and surprised at what the real agenda is, you know, versus what we're told the agenda.
Yeah, and I think the worst part is like finding out how right Alex Jones was about globalists. That's like the worst part. Like I made fun of that guy for like 10 years, and I'm like starting to see it. I'm like, wait a second, everything's pushing towards like not having kids, not having a family, dying young, like all these rappers are just like dying of like Xanax overdoses at like 23 and stuff, and they're pushing that on kids and marketing to them, and that's the pharmaceutical industry too. I mean, they're the biggest advertisers in the country, and then you're like, and then you're like watching all this, and then the other songs are just to promote the privatized prison industrial complex to make people think that going to jail, or make kids think going to jail is like a rite of passage or something, and it's like, and this whole thing's just weird. It's like, and it needs to be checked really. And I think a lot of people are too busy, like doing the right thing, like raising their family and like working 60 hours to feed them, and you know. And I think it's just like, you know, I mean, it's just a lot of stuff like that, and that's my opinion. I mean, it doesn't make it real. It just means how I view the world right now, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole notion of like, I mean, even over this COVID period, a lot of people got to slow down. A lot of people got to kind of breathe in a way that they never did before. Like, I thought there would be a whole lot more musicians and even actors and people out there that would just probably never go back into the spotlight again. I mean, they have all the money. They got all of these things that they wanted in life. Maybe they would just take this time of calm and say, you know, why? Why am I going to run around on tour, run around back into the studio, do this rat race thing? And I think for a lot of people out there, too, hopefully it was a time of slowing down and finding out what's important. But still, you're right. You get everybody out here that has to, like, pay the bills, and you don't have that, like, Aristotelian time to, like, sit back and philosophize and figure out what the hell is going on in this world.
Definitely, I think that's the comedian's job. Because like when I was telling you that grade school answer, like we really don't do anything most of the time. So it's like we have this amazing free time awarded to us that no one else really has on Earth, and any other time really, other than like royalty, really. I don't think any other time in history were you allowed to just do nothing forever.
Yeah,
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, just you would have been like, you know what I mean? You would have been in most of history. You would have been a slave or peasant, like most numbers. I mean, the way numbers were, the numbers game. And then maybe if you're royalty, you had like more food and free time. But I mean, it's just like I think the comedians just awarded that time to think, and I think that's why. I mean, a lot of us seem crazy because like a lot of people aren't awarded that time. So when you when you try to explain things to them, you have to like. I mean, I get frustrated. People don't see what I see, but they don't have the time. You know, they don't have the time to just read a bunch of things and watch a bunch of things and think, and you know, they don't have that time, man.
Absolutely, they don't. So let's go back in your life. How did all of these seeds and motivational pieces come in for you to want to go after comedy and live the life and do what you do now?
Well, I think I was a bad musician. I think I would have much rather been a rock star at one point, like or a pro wrestler if you asked my like child self what I wanted to do. But I think like I amassed like a big fan base on Facebook. I had like 1 million people at the time or something like that, or leading up to that maybe or something. And then I was asked to go on a comedy tour, and I was just really bad at first. And then I really liked it. And then I just kept with it. And then it's just kind of something I always say I'm not doing anymore. I'll get tired of doing it. Like I just did a year's worth of shows every weekend, and I'm just like, man, I'm not doing this anymore. I stopped for 2 months, told everybody I'm not doing it. And then here I am on your podcast and booking more shows for 2023. It's just like something I can't get away from, you know? It's like I love it too much, but I don't always know it. I love it.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's like it's going to follow you if it's meant to be. Let me ask you this. Who's been a hero for you? Who's been a role model, inspiration for you in your life?
The only hero I have on earth probably is my grandfather. like the only person I kind of looked up to more so was like my grandfather. He was like just a man in the room, you know, just every time. Like he fought in World War II, he fought in the Korean War. He's a chef, a big chef on a diner, and he was just like, and he really held the family together. And I think that's what I value in life, is like the kind of figurehead that can hold a family together and like friends together, and like for the right reasons, you know.
So if you could meet anybody that's alive on the planet right now, who would it be? Who would you love to talk to for a little bit?
Oh man, it's a great question. Maybe Vladimir Putin, just to see what he's even about. You know, I just see TV clips all the time.
Yeah, I think that would be, you know, that's funny. That answer is one of the top answers, and it's surprising but not surprising. Because, I mean, I remember, I don't know if you saw this clip, but Conor McGregor met him probably like 6 years ago, and he patted him on the back, and he was trying to be all palsy and getting close, and his handlers like moved his arm off of him. It was like wagged their finger like a dog got into the turkey on accident. And it was really weird. And it's like I don't know that Putin would even have the wherewithal to let that guard down. I mean, do you think he would?
Oh, you can't. I mean, I think when you have that kind of power and like in the way he built it, I think you always have to be on point, man. And those Russians always are, man. Like you just look at the last so many leaders, they're all kind of the same with that. And I don't necessarily side with the politics or anything like that, but I mean, I want to know. I feel like I always want to like give everybody a chance. You know, I feel like I just want to hear what they're actually about rather than like the negativity. Like when I hear like this, like everybody, like for lack of a better term, like just completely shit talk a certain person, I just want to hear their perspective most of the time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the thing that's so bad about the media and what it does is it really will paint and portray something that could be completely, absolutely inaccurate. I mean, it's almost like we're always the jury out here. We're in the jury box, but are we getting the right evidence? Like, you know,
yeah.
Like for instance, I mean, any major story that comes out, whether it's this conservatorship with Britney Spears or anything else out there, like how much of it, even with the movie that we get, how much of this is getting filtered do we even actually see? Because it's just like Facebook. When you see someone's Facebook profile and then you actually meet them after a certain amount of time, you're like, wait, hold on a second. What's going on here? What reality is actually happening? Because everybody, to a certain degree, is posturing. So when you really dig beneath the surface, you know, like meeting somebody like Vladimir, at least you would have some leg to stand on and say, okay, I saw this in person, you know.
Yeah, very well put, man. That was amazingly put. Yeah, and I think I just want to live in the real world more, man. I think like I'm in like the woods right now, and like I'm not that deep because I mean I have 2 bars and I'm having this conversation with you, but I mean I'm just like I'm in like an area with a couple campers and like maybe like 2 or 3 other campers like spread out, and I'm just in the woods, man. And I think like it really helped me separate from all these divide tactics, just like getting back to the woods and like. I'm not like completely where I want to be with it. Like I want to hunt and fish and all that stuff. Stop buying my food and stuff. But I think like I'm on my way to that. And like I think I've achieved like a lot of peace, man. And I'm not in this whole divide culture where like everybody's just deleting their grandma because they disagree with their politics or something. And it's just like I'm not in this thing. I'm able to observe it almost instead of like partake in it. You know.
Yeah, man. In March, I woke up one morning and my Facebook account, I had like 4,000, friends. And it was a lot with my radio show and all of that. And I had all of these pictures that my kids love to look at, and if my account was frozen. Somebody had sent something really malicious for my account to a drummer in Switzerland that I had just interviewed and sent something on Messenger. So they put my account under review and said, we may get to it, but we may not because of COVID and we don't have staffing. They ended up deleting my account. And when it happened, I was like, wow, how quick that can happen. There was a myriad of things that went into it, but the bottom line is that I don't have to think about putting anything up anymore. I'm not going back to Facebook. If it was that easy to get rid of, I want nothing to do with it. So, but it's like now, like I'll look up and I'll see like an eclipse in the sky, and I don't know that it was going to happen for a week because all these people on Facebook said it. I'm just living. I'm just looking at the sky. And I'm just like, oh, wow, okay, that's going on. Like, I'm in the moment. I don't have to worry about what to post or any of that. And it feels so good to be out of that race.
It really does, man. I think I can relate to a lot of what you said. Like, I mean, that feeling of losing an account really does. Because, like, I mean, that's decades of your photos of family and friends, and they don't take that into account. They fear words. they and which shows me they're not the good guys, you know. And it's a bad business plan to delete your users. I mean, it's just a bad business plan. It's like, okay, it's like if I went to a store and they're like, I refuse to serve you right now. And I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go somewhere else. You know, it's like the same thing. It's like, and I have the same feelings with Twitter and like YouTube and a bunch of other things. I mean, I've been deleted from so many things because like I was just challenging things. Like, I'm just like, and then they try to lump me in. And I ran for office as a Republican. They try to lump me in with this like January 6th shit. Like, they deleted my account that day just for being Republican. And I'm like, I was nowhere near that shit. I'm like, what are you? It was just like a weird, disgusting thing. And I was just kind of honestly offended by my government and by my social media and all that. I'm like at this point society has like two things to offer me, and I feel like it's the gym that I use and like restaurants, and outside of that everything's so corrupt and disgusting. I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's the same thing on both sides of the aisle. It's like there was this notion for a while that if you're on the Democrat side, you're not for the police, and if you're on the Republican side, you're an extremist. It's like there's no, you know what? That's the thing that's weird. It's like there's no meeting in the center. I think when you boil down the typical American, we're not wanting to go to these levels of extremes. You have extremists everywhere, but I think there's a level of us that want to just have a life that doesn't have all of this drama and nonsense, and to feel as though we're getting what we're buying into with like a third of our paycheck to the taxes and everything else that we have to get swallowed out of our life that we work so hard for. You know, we just want something that makes sense, you know.
Well, we the argument with each other instead of like fixing the problems, and like everybody can have like issues and stuff. It's like it's about solving problems, and I think both parties are right in different ways. I think the left has pushed a lot of good like things like social platforms and stuff, and I think it's really good. But I think you need both, really. I mean, I think you need both parties, and we need to work together, or it's just insane. You know, we have to cater to everyone's like taste. It's like a menu. You know, like politics is like a menu. It should be anyway. Like we're like, okay, I want a corn dog and he wants a hamburger, but like whatever, we're gonna eat at the same table. You know, and that's kind of like how it really is. But we're pushed away in all these divide tactics, man. And politics is just one of them. You know, it's just like. And everybody loves their country enough to even side with the party, and that's what I've kind of realized as a watcher more so than a partaker. Is like if that even makes sense verbally, but I'm just saying, I feel like as like a voyeur of like society, I see it, the divide way easier than I did when I was like wrapped up in it, you know.
Absolutely. So let's get to the crux of who you are. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, those that see you on the stage as a comedian, those that know you as a political candidate, a podcaster. But ultimately, you live your life. You have a perception of you. Who do you think you are?
It's kind of a lazy, boring person. Let's be honest. I find the science of like doing the least amount of work to get the most results. I feel like.
I dig it. So, if anybody wants to listen to your podcast, learn more about you, anything related to your world, Anthony, where can they go?
Oh, I'm easy to Google. You can just Google Anthony Rogers or Anthony Rogers Comedian or the Anthony Rogers Show. They all come up pretty fast. And I'm kind of been focused on YouTube right now, like youtube.com/Anthony Rogers. I'm kind of focused on that. I just put up like this thing where I lived in Airbnbs for a year with my wife. I was recently married like a year ago-ish. And we lived in Airbnbs for a while. And I think that one's kind of a cool video that's not really what I've been doing. I just been doing podcasts and comedy, and I'm like, this is kind of cool to do kind of like a vlog, kind of take it behind the scenes, and that's probably the best way to see how I live is to watch that.
Right on. Well, Anthony, hey, send my best to St. Louis. I always love it when I'm out there, and if you do head towards Kansas City, let me know. I'll give you kind of a jazz barbecue kind of guide to go for.
Well, yeah, I'll make you get some barbecue with me.
Oh, I'd love to, dude. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on your show. Like you seem like you have a rapid thought and like your own thought, and you're your own person, and I really enjoy that a lot. And like you seem authentic to yourself.
Well, thank you, man. I love this community, this Podmatch community. I've really branched out, and there's so many wonderful people, and I really do genuinely believe that, you know, the different ideologies, the different ways that we think, the different ways that we live our lives are actually more of a unifier than a divider. And if we can just talk about it and put out things from a genuine place, we are going to make this world a better place, and we're going to make it more habitable for all of our kids and future generations and all of that. So I think it's good. It's worthwhile, man.
No, I agree, and I think you hit a lot of good points there. And I think we're in the process of that just by us even talking and having this conversation. And I think if you're listening to this, you should just start over and listen to it from the beginning again.
Right on. I agree. Anthony, hey, man, thank you. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with all your endeavors, man.
Likewise, man. I hope you get rich as hell.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, politics, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.